everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm gonna cover a fundamental topic, which is wine tasting. The techniques that I'll be sharing are used by wine professionals in the wine industry. So after watching this video, you will be able to taste like a pro as well. By the way, for those that are new to this channel, I'm Chelsea. I'm a certified and professionally trained expert. In this channel, I'll be sharing some of the wine tips I've gained over the years in professional wine training. If you like this video and would like to receive more videos on different wine topics, do hit the subscribe button and join the club. So the first step to wine tasting is to look at the appearance. So typically when we talk about the appearance, we talk about the clarity, the intensity, and also the color. So the clarity means to look at a wine and to see if the wine is clear. So what it means by clear, it means that is it hazy, is it cloudy? Most of the wines that you are able to find in the market should be clean unless it's spoiled. One of the biggest exceptions to possibly you getting a hazy, cloudy looking wine could be that you have bought an organic wine. So organic wines looks a bit hazy and cloudy because the producer may have reduced the amount of filtration that's done to the wine, and hence there's some suspended particles. It's perfectly fine to drink those hazy looking, cloudy organic wines. So the next judgment would be the intensity and the color of the wine. There are a few wines that I'm gonna show to you today. Before we get started, of course, I need to pour out the wine first. The amount of wine that I pour out, it's around 1/3 of the glass. The wine glass that I'm using is a professional wine tasting glass. You can use any other glass. The logic is similar. You should pour the wine and stop at the widest point of a wine glass. So the next step you want to do is to look for a white surface. I have a piece of paper with me. If you are in a restaurant or you are out, you don't typically have a white piece of paper being handy. You can use maybe the plate if it's white, or the menu if it's white, or the tablecloth if it's white. So just look for any kind of white surface and tilt the glass around 45 degrees like this. So there's one point that I like to talk about is I see a lot of people assessing wine color like this. So tilt the glass up and then look at the wine color over some light sources. This is not really the correct way to assess color, because I don't think you can see a lot of things going on. There's too much wine here and it blocks out basically the color that you should really be seeing. So some wine varieties will give lighter color and also lighter color intensity. For example, like Pinot Noir is usually on the lighter side. Merlot will have like a medium intensity, and then a grape called Petit Verdot may have like a much higher intensity in color. So the two red wines that I'm showing today are Merlot from Chile and also Shiraz from Yellowtail. So these are very well-known varieties, New World wine, and we'll see how the color and color intensity shows up. So I have with me two wines. The left one is Merlot and the right one is Shiraz. So I'm gonna put the two glasses side by side, and to assess the color, we will look at the rim of the wine glass. So after you tilt the glass 45 degrees, look at the rim. You can see the other one as well, the Shiraz. You can see the rim. So there are two main commonly used wine colors in the wine world. It's called purple and ruby. So purple, it's typically red wines with like kind of a bluish hint. Most of the time it kind of symbolizes youth. And obviously it depends on the grape varieties as well, right? Like you can't say because it's blue so it's young, but it's just one of the indicator. So ruby will be more on, there's a kind of like a brownish hue to it. I don't know how much it will turn out in this video, but the Merlot, the left hand side, has a more bluish hue, and the right hand side, the Shiraz, has a more brownish color. So part of the reason, you know, when we look at the bottles again, Merlot is actually 2018 and Shiraz is 2016. So the Shiraz is actually slightly older than Merlot, and so the Merlot is showing some youth with the purple color. So the second step to determine the appearance of a wine is to look at the color intensity. We have two wines here. So what you normally do is to tilt the wine glass towards you so you can look through the stem of the glass, you know, in a way that you can actually see the stem of the glass. So two of them you can't really see through, but you can still see a little bit, especially on the right one, right? Like you see a bit of the stem, you know, in the middle. If you are able to see through the stem and it's not like you can see it easily, then it's called medium intensity. So both wines here have medium intensity. In cases when we have like high intensity wines, you can't even see the stem at all. So now let's talk about white wine. So I have with me, the left hand side is Sauvignon Blanc from Chile and Chardonnay from Pays d'Oc, France. These are really classic grapes as well. It's not indicated here, but the vintage for this wine is 2015. When we put the white wines side by side, now that I'm seeing through the screen, actually it's very clear. My right hand side, the Chardonnay, has a slightly darker color compared to the left, which is the Sauvignon Blanc. For determining white wine, you don't have to look through the stem like this, just now what we've done for red wine. We just need to look like this. So how we look is to see how intense is the color in the middle of the glass. So can you see that in the middle, there's quite a bit of color and then it kind of lose out the color at the side. So just by putting the two wines side by side, the Sauvignon Blanc is clearly lighter than the Chardonnay. So this is actually kind of expected because Chardonnay typically shows higher intensity than Sauvignon Blanc. Just, you know, this is the nature of the grape variety. To describe this color, we will call that as lemon. So we don't call that as yellow. So the wine on the left hand side is called lemon green because even though the intensity is different, you can actually see even the color is slightly different. This right hand side, the Chardonnay, is slightly more on the golden side. I would probably call this as lemon green, and the right hand side as lemon. It's completely normal for Sauvignon Blanc to show a lighter color and a more greenish hue. Okay, let's move on to wine tasting technique step number 2. So step number 2 to wine tasting is nose. So there are 3 things here. You want to assess the condition of the wine, the intensity of the wine, and also the aroma. So what you need to do is stir the wine glass like this and put it close to your nose. So you just want to quickly smell if it's out of condition, it's too oxidized, or it smells like cupboard, or it's moldy, things like that. So after you assess the condition of the wine, it's not faulty, there's no like funky smell, then you can assess the intensity of the wine. So when you put the wine glass very close to your nose, and you can really smell like different kind of aroma like fruits or flower or oak or mushroom or things like that, then this wine is considered as pronounced, like it has a very, very high intensity. And if you put your nose very close to your nose, then you don't smell much. That's called light intensity. For example, like Italian Pinot Grigio usually has a very light intensity, but not all. I've tasted quite good quality Pinot Grigio from Italy before, but there are also a lot of Pinot Grigio that is made as a very basic wine and is very neutral. And so if you want to have a sense of what's neutral and light intensity wine, you can actually have a look at Pinot Grigio from Italy. So on the nose, you will want to assess what you have to smell. There are 3 main categories. There's primary, secondary, and tertiary. The primary aroma is typically on the fruits, the flower. The secondary is usually due to winemaking, for example, like the use of oak. There are techniques that add on to the aroma. And then the third one will be tertiary, which is caused by aging. So for example, like the leather, the mushroom notes that you hear people describe. So let's move on to step number 3 in the wine tasting technique. So step number 3 is about the palate. So before we move on to tasting the wine, let's talk a little bit about biology. There are different parts of the tongue. So the tip of the tongue is for sweetness, the side of the tongue is for sourness, middle of the tongue is for saltiness, the back is for bitterness. Because of the different parts of the tongue, when we taste the wine, we want to make sure that the wine has touched all parts of the tongue, so we get all the sensation that is coming from the wine. So I'm gonna show you how I do the tasting, and I'm gonna do the explanation after. Take a sip. So what I've just done is I take a sip, I try to suck up the wine with air from my mouth, and I'm trying to swirl the wine all over my mouth. So I make sure that the wine has touched all parts of my mouth. So when you suck up the wine, when the alcohol evaporates, it will bring in the aroma inside the nose. We are doing this because the nose is where it catches the aroma, so you want to make sure that the aroma is going up to the nose again and you have like an all-rounded experience or all-rounded flavor going over your mouth and the nose, so you will have a better assessment of what the wine is. When you're doing that, just one note, make sure your head is a little bit tilted down. When you tilt your head up, the wine will go into your nose, and no, you don't want this to happen. For safety reasons, remember to tilt your head down when you try to suck up the wine. Again, this requires a little bit of practice. Do practice a few times and then you will see a difference. There are a few things of the wine that you want to assess on the palate. Is the wine sweet? Is the wine dry? So for example, ice wine will be sweet, and then the Sauvignon Blanc we just opened up for this video from Chile is dry. So dry means this is not sweet. And then you want to assess the acidity of the wine as well. So acidity of the wine also means sourness. So when you eat like a lemon, then it will be very sour. You will feel like all the sourness going through here, you know, at the side. Then we want to talk a little bit about the alcohol. You typically sense the alcohol level here. If it's a wine with high alcohol, then you will kind of feel like a burning sensation in your throat. So for red wines, we want to assess the tannin. So tannin usually comes in the sensation of dryness. So if you feel that your gum is very dry, because the tannin typically sticks on your gum, that will be like a high tannin wine. After you drink it, you don't feel a lot on your gum. There's not much going on the gum. That will typically means it's a low tannin kind of wine. So you want to assess the body of the wine. Is it full body, light body? Pinot Noir typically has lighter body because just the nature of the grape is more elegant, it's more delicate, and you can typically expect more body for wines like Shiraz. Then we can determine the intensity. So intensity kind of ties a little bit back into the aroma intensity, but not necessarily, because sometimes it could be very intense on the nose, but it can be less intense on the palate. Then you want to talk a little bit about the flavor. We use basically the same descriptors that we use for aroma, and typically most of the wines will demonstrate similar kind of notes on the nose and also on the palate. Usually like fruits and flowers, we can feel more on the nose, and whereas, you know, savory, you know, saltiness, for example, like leather, oak, yeast, biscuit kind of notes, you will feel more on the palate, and hence we kind of need to combine like the nose notes and also the palate flavors. So then we talk a little bit about the finish of the wine. How long does the flavor last on the palate? If the flavor only lasts for like a few seconds, then it's very short, but if it lasts like almost like a minute, so usually these are very well-made wines, then it's a very long finish. So the finish is typically referring to the nice flavors. For example, like the fruits are still there, then the honey is still there on the palate, you know, instead of like a bitterness finish that is super long, that would not be qualified as a long finish, it would just be called like a bitter finish. So after we taste the wine, let's move on to the fourth step, which is also the last step on tasting techniques, which is conclusion. For example, like, does the wine has too much alcohol, but there's not much going on the aroma, and so the wine appears to be very unbalanced because it's just like a lot of burning feeling, but there's not much flavor, so you don't really enjoy the wine. Or the wine smells very good at the nose, but then when you drink it, it has a very short finish, so it's kind of like it's missing out something. You were expecting more when you smell it on the nose, but then at the finish, it was like so short and it was kind of not living up to your expectation. Wine tasting definitely comes down to experiences and practices. Over time, you will build your own personal wine library, and you will be able to share your experiences with the rest of the people. I hope that you will put these wine tasting techniques into practice, incorporate them in your wine journey, and I'll see you in the next video.